I didn't leave to make a point. I simply just was done.
This is Talking to the Dead with Janet Kubik. And I'm your host, Joe Oliva. Let me introduce you to the star of the show, who wants to dance with you, Janet Kubik.
Hello. Yeah, actually, to be a little bit more accurate, it's I want to dance with somebody.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
and
not
again,
me. Not me. You know my dancing abilities.
True. We won't go down that road. I'm again taking over your title of Segway King and giving people an idea of who I feel might be popping in or stopping by today.
Yes. I am going to let them know that you've been saying for a few days, actually I think it's even been more than a week, that you expect today to hear from none other than the lovely Whitney Houston.
Yes. And when you said that, I got the full-on tingles up the back of my neck. This is another one for me where there's a lot of personal connection. I mean, I remember growing up and listening to her music, and so I'm in that bit of fangirl mode again.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I don't, to be honest, know a ton about her, which tends to be the case with all of these celebrities coming through.
She's very likable.
Yeah. And just undeniably exceptionally talented, right? Like, right. It may not be your cup of tea, so to speak, but there's no denying that she was just an incredibly talented human being.
Right.
I'm sort of, as we're chatting, as per usual, I'm sort of attuning my ear to the other side to see if she's kind of ready to come forward. It's sort of funny because in the days leading up to this, as you said, there has been some things again kind of coming forward that would lead me to feel like she was going to come today to chat with us.
What were some of those things?
Well, yeah. So just as an example, me, I'm very rarely on Facebook. No slight against Facebook. It's just not something I tend to typically do. But I did pop on, and they, you know how they have the suggestions or suggested for you?
Yes.
That pops up. So it popped up, and it was Whitney Houston. And
yeah, was this a friend's post? Or
no,
was it just a random?
Wasn't even from a friend or somebody on my friends list or however that works. It was just this suggested for you. And it was a picture of her, and it had a quote of some sort, and I didn't even pay much attention to it at first. So I think there was also like a quote or a song title on this post, and I didn't really pay that much attention to it, so I can't remember exactly what it was. But then what caught my eye is that directly underneath it, how you follow along the feed, right, was a post from my mom. Yay, right. Mom. Right. And it was a repost of one of my episodes of Talking to the Dead.
Cool.
And yeah, so it was just very interesting to me.
So they were side by side. Basically.
Yeah, or one after the other.
One on top of the next, yeah.
Yes, and this was after I had already had some other things come forward to sort of lead me to believe that we'd get a chance to talk with her. I did wake up one morning completely randomly singing "I Want to Dance with Somebody." I mean, not out loud. I wasn't like wasn't giving my neighbors a concert or anything, but I was singing it in my head, and I have had that song sort of on replay again this morning as well. So those are some of the things that lead me to believe that she might be stepping forward. But it's interesting because as those messages or as those things have been coming, and even right now, as I'm trying to sort of hone in on her energy and connect with that energy, it's like I'm feeling a lot of different things.
How do you mean?
It's like if you're trying to get an impression of somebody, are they a happy person? Are they a sad person? How are they feeling? What message do they want to bring forward? Like just in life, it's kind of like I can't tell. I kind of feel like I feel really joyful is a word I get. Joyous, joyful. I feel like she's coming in now. She's talking about a connection to God, and there's a reference to gospel music.
Okay.
And then there's also sort of the word that's coming forward is melancholy. There's this
Okay.
sort of melancholy attached to the feeling, and I can't really sort of hone in on one aspect. And she just steps in and she says, and that's because you're not meant to. She says, because I was more than just one thing. And she says, yes, I'm echoing the sentiment of some of my other celebrity friends who have taken the opportunity to come forward to speak with you. But it's a really important message, and it needs to continue to be brought into the spotlight. We are just people. Yes, we may be gifted. Yes, we may have been graced by the most precious God to have abilities and skills that we could use to share our gifts and love and passion with the world. But that didn't make us just one thing. And that's where the train goes off the tracks, so to speak, or where things become derailed, is that we're only presenting one thing. We're asking people to believe in and put their faith in one thing. And she says, it isn't about one thing. It's about what's in here. It's about what's inside of you. It's about embracing those times where you feel joy and embracing those times where you just don't. And you can't get out of bed, and you certainly don't want to sing in front of thousands of people, like in my case, but you pull yourself together and you do it. But that's okay. You're allowed to be you. Yes, the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's what it's about. And when we don't allow that in each other, when we don't allow that grace to be given to all the individuals walking in this human experience, then what happens is they become oppressed. And it becomes dark. And they become very sad. And it becomes harder and harder to stay there in that place where you are. No more. It's not needed. She said, allow yourselves to embrace your gifts, to share your gifts. She's gone quiet. So I'm just honoring that. I'm feeling very emotional. And she says, don't leave the way that I did.
Right.
She says, I didn't leave to make a point. I simply just was done. Okay, she's sort of stepping back. I'm feeling very emotional. So I think she's just giving me a moment.
I know what she's talking about. I mean, she's saying in front of tens of thousands of people at a time. In my music career, I sang in front of tens of people at a time. It's a little different, but I know that feeling of where you're not in the mood, or maybe you've just gotten in an argument with your bandmate, or someone on the phone at home, or you're physically sick, but yet the show must go on, that famous saying. And I think, and I remember one show in particular, we had two sets, and I had the worst illness. I had kind of, I could say maybe something like along the lines of food poisoning. I'll spare you the details of what was going on.
No. Oh.
So I literally went from a toilet to the show where I'm putting on this big, hey, how are you doing tonight? Blah, blah, blah. Back to the toilet in intermission, back on the stage, and back to the toilet. That's how bad it was. And yeah, it's just, but the point I'm trying to make is that it's not just entertainers. Everybody, sometimes they have to get up and like, oh, I just don't want to go to work today. I'm just physically sick, or I'm emotionally not in the mood, or I'm mentally not there, or I just had an altercation with my neighbor and we got in a big fight, or whatever it is. And yeah, it's too bad that we can't be more transparent about what's going on in our life.
Yes, And I think, Joe, that speaks very much to her point that she's bringing forward. I'm actually going to defer back to her and see if she wants to speak any more to it.
Yeah, I was just buying you some time.
What's that?
I was buying you a little time to get
Thank you. I appreciate
get
that.
through the emotional stuff. Yeah, okay.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So I'm just sort of checking back in. She sort of says, and kudos to you, she says, and yes, it is something that is relevant, I think is the word, that is relevant to all of us. She says, we all wear masks. We all feel forced to put on that happy face. And like you said, Joe, in many given circumstances, not just those who, are performing in the ways that I did. She said, wouldn't it be such a wonderful world if it was okay to just be how you feel without feeling the need to apologize, to just allow what is moving through you in that moment to be what is shared with the world. Again, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because it's all a part of who we all are, regardless of what we try to project. It is how it is. It is who we are. It is what we experience when we're walking in that human experience. Wouldn't it be wonderful, or wouldn't it be lovely, sorry, she says, wouldn't it be lovely if we all could just allow ourselves to freely just be? And then she actually said, in love and light, my friend, amen. And that's interesting for me, because typically when I am channeling, especially when I'm writing, when I'm receiving, that is usually the closing of the message.
Right.
So I'm not sure if she has sort of said what she wanted to say and has stepped out. Did you want to try to ask any other questions, Joe?
No, but I want to make a couple of statements. Some people associate the word amen with like, oh, religion, right? It's some religious thing and it's nothing to do with me. I think the meaning of the word is just I believe, right? So I think it's important for people to know that you're not really pushing any specific religion on anyone. I think you're of the opinion, if I may speak for you, do what feels right for the individual, right? And so when you use the word God, you can replace that with universe, yes, or grand engineer, source. I've heard it called. And when you say the word amen, you could just replace that with I believe or peace out or whatever you want to close with. I just think it's important for people to know that about you.
I appreciate you bringing that forward. And I mean, again, you have walked along beside me through a lot of this journey, and you are very well aware of, what I have come to believe, or what beliefs I have sort of formed through my own personal experience. And one of them is that we need the freedom to be individuals. And that as much as we will have many, many commonalities, common experiences being human, every single one of our experiences is unique. It is not like any other experience. And therefore, because of that, trying to force or dictate a right or a wrong or a one way as opposed to another just doesn't fit. And I personally feel that we have become, and I'm thinking now back to what Whitney said, or Miss Houston, I don't even feel like I should call her Whitney, Miss Houston said, I think she used the word oppression. And it feels to me like when we become dictated to, we become oppressed. And if we could just allow each other and ourselves the opportunity to be as individual as we truly are, then we will have that freedom. We will have that flow. We will come out of the dark, so to speak, and our own individual light will be able to shine. Our own individual personalities will be able to shine. Our own individual gifts will be able to shine. Our own individual missions, if you want to call it here in this place, will have a chance to shine. And I've just really broadened my understanding of how every single person is important. Every single person is needed. Every single person's experience is valid, whether I like it or not, whether
Right.
it's what we might call good or bad. There is a purpose for it. And that is a hard pill to swallow sometimes, but it's what I've come to believe. And so when I speak and use words such as God or Amen, I am simply receiving the information how I would receive it,
Right.
or how they feel comfortable sharing it with me. But as you said, the words are interchangeable. God, source, energy, the universe. It's whatever speaks to you that is
Right.
what's important. However the message resonates with you. I mean, we will all watch these episodes, myself included, and we'll take away varying interpretations or perspectives of what I've said, of what Spirit has said. And that's the way it's meant to be. So we need to stop fighting against that and trying to create this controlled situation where we all think alike, we all act alike, we all do alike, because that's not honoring who we truly are. And I have come to believe that it's not honoring what we are actually here for,
Right.
as humans living life in the human existence. Sorry, that was a bit of a tangent.
No, not really. I think I mean, Robin Williams, I think, was the first celebrity that said on these YouTube shows / podcasts that we do, we're more than just one thing. He might have said it, I'm paraphrasing, and now
Yeah.
she said that again. And I think it's true. I mean, we look to celebrities sometimes as just, it's interesting because we've noticed that even the number of people that watch the shows, it increases when there's a celebrity involved. I think people are just interested in hearing what they have to say. But the messages that they're bringing forward are true for everyone. Like I'm repeating myself, but the accountant that has to get up and go to work and doesn't really feel like it that day, that's just as challenging as someone that has to go on stage and put on a mask, as she said. She said, we all wear masks, right?
It's funny you say that too, Joe, because I literally was just having the conversation. Oh, and I'm getting distracted, so we'll see. I'm going to try to finish my thought, but I was just having the conversation with my mom just yesterday, where I said, you know what, Mom? I said, if people choose to watch the show and hear the messages, whether they are interested in the celebrity or whether or not they're even interested or open or accepting of the idea of spirit, the messages are so impactful.
Right.
And they are so important. I mean, I would be honored to say that they were coming from me because I believe so strongly in them that they are what the world needs to hear right now. So yeah, it's just, I think the important thing is just to hear the message, hear the information, gather the information. I think George Carlin said that, gather all the information, but then allow yourself to process it based on your feelings, your experience, your uniqueness. Process it in that way, not the way that you're told to. And one of the other statements that I received quite a long time ago from Spirit, but that has stuck with me, and I'll try to see if I can get it exactly correctly. But being spiritual does not require you to be anything other than who or what you innately are.
Right.
Right? So I think that's a really powerful and important piece moving forward. We need to let go of being controlled, being told how it should be, how it has been. We need to forge something new. And another one of the ways that Spirit brought it forward to me, and I think I may have referenced this before too, was the statement, rewrite your way of being.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's what is being reiterated today.
Cool. You interrupted Whitney Houston.
Hey, she's just a person. So if I can interrupt you,
Right.
then I can interrupt her. It's okay.
Did she have something to say there?
um,
Or was it somebody else?
I'm going to see, I'm going to take a second, if that's okay with you. And that actually feels like it was more, I'm getting guide energy, and but I'm getting guide sort of as a plural. And I'm almost getting like a round of applause.
Good.
Yeah. Yay, thanks. But I think the round of the round of applause is not specifically for me or for you, but for the idea, for bringing forward, the information that that we're sharing. Again, not because anybody has to resonate with it or believe it or follow it, but just because now that information in one other form or one other outlet is now out there, and it becomes an option. It becomes an option for people so that they can explore and they can have the opportunity to feel out what resonates with them. And she says, I believe this is my guide. And no, it's not my guide, but it's another guide energy. And she says it's important to use the word feel, because feeling things through is a lot different than thinking them through. I'm not sure who that was. She says it's not of significant importance. What's of importance is the message. Just as you are discovering with these celebrities, she says in quotes, who are coming forward to share these messages with you, not to demean them or judge them in any way by using the quotation marks, but simply to address the fact that you are all celebrities in your own right. Aww. That's really nice and cute. I like that. She says they simply have chosen a public path or a more public path, and it has allowed them the opportunity to, if they so choose, or if they were allowed to show the world who they were. She says, but unfortunately, the world is too shrouded at this time in egoic energies to allow even celebrities to truly shine.
Yeah, I will paraphrase Sarah McLachlan, Canadian singer. If people don't know who she is, I can't imagine that you wouldn't, but she once said something that I thought was very smart. She said, I'm paraphrasing, I'm just an ordinary person with an extraordinary job. That's it. Right?
Cool. And it's interesting that sort of, I'm getting the word like juxtaposition, because it's such an ironic thing that, these people who have found celebrity or the ability to support themselves and create abundance in their lives through their passion, because most artists, if not all artists, are artists because of their passion for it. She says it's ironic in a way that those artists are being allowed to live their passion, but at the same time, they face condemnation and judgment in doing so. And she says, and this is where things are in need of a significant change. We all need to be allowed to live our passion, live with passion, follow our heart and our inner guidance, and in fact, love what we do, which is a common phrase in your place or where you are, to do what you love and love what you do. She said, but it's not allowed at this time.
Right.
It always comes with a downside, so to speak, or complication, or criticism or judgment of some form. She says, you all need to be allowed to simply be who you are meant to be. The you that feels lit up by what you are engaging in and choosing to partake in. If you could all be so lucky, you feel, to live that way, the waters would certainly calm. The energy would certainly smooth, and the ride would certainly become a bit more easy. And she now says, in love and light, my friend, amen. And she kind of winks because she knows that she's just used the same wrap up, so to speak. So she's doing that. This energy is doing that sort of on purpose as being a bit cheeky. She feels a bit cheeky.
But you don't know who that was.
No, but I'm really curious. So I'm kind of, as I'm talking to you, I'm kind of half listening to
Sure.
see. I
One,
actually, I actually get that she's someone who had celebrity in her day or in her time here, but she was not here in within our current lifetime or the lifetime that, of the sort of the viewership, she says. But she did have, I just heard the name Anna Karenina. I
Anna.
have Anna Karenina. I know I've heard that, but again, I'm showing how unworldly I am in that I don't know who that is. Anna Karenina. And she shows me back that she lived back. So not recently.
Okay.
She lived a while ago.
We're gonna take a timeout in real life, but in the edit it will go by like that. I'm gonna Google her. Okay. Okay. So off camera, I Googled Anna Karenina. It's a novel by a guy named Leo Tolstov, who I've heard that name before, and it's called The Greatest Novel of All Time. However, there was a co-author, Sophia. Maybe her coming through because off camera you said it's a female energy. It's also based on someone named Anna something else. So I suspect it might be Sophia, the author, or Anna.
As you say, Sophia, I am getting tingles through the whole left side of my body. And when you had gone off to do the Google or to look things up through Google,
Right.
I did also hear the word author. Does it
So
give the date as to when it was written? Because I'm feeling like it was written quite some time ago.
yeah,
Okay.
I don't remember. I'd have to go back across the room. I'm not set up with my computer by my side right now. But yeah, it was a long time ago. They called that one of the greatest novels of all time. So yeah, maybe it's Sophia coming through.
Yeah. With that said, I'm going to just sort of try to connect back in and see if there's anything else to come forward. There's something about it wasn't so much about the book itself that made it extraordinary. It was those who wrote it that made it extraordinary. And she says this is what sort of falls in line with the message that has been brought forward by Miss Houston today. That idea that we represent ourselves not always in our own truth, but through our creativity. And we are not always recognized for who we are and what we contribute.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I mean we've talked about in the last episode with Audrey Hepburn. We've talked about I'll just use the broad term feminism. In a way, she massaged it differently, but it's funny because I've never heard of Anna Karenina before, but I have heard of that male author, and the female author I've never heard of before, right? So
isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
As you say that, I do get sort of this sensation of heat that kind of goes up through my shoulders and up through the back of my head, which is actually a newer sort of feeling for me. Yes, she says, it's all time that we are recognized for who we are and what we contribute. She said, not just me. This is not about me needing to stake my claim or to redeem the celebrity I felt that was taken from me or try to get the word. It's like she wasn't allowed it. I can't quite get the word, but she wasn't allowed to have it. Even though it feels like she contributed, I don't know if it was equally or what the balance was there, but it feels like she had a significant contribution, but yet she wasn't recognized because it wasn't her place at that time. She says we need to let all of that go.
Right.
We need to let it all go. We need to be allowed to shine for who we are, not because someone says so or says that it should be so. Still feel like her energy's present but she sort of has gone quiet. Do you have anything to interject, Joe? Or
No, times have definitely changed since her time. I mean, I know there's a famous story of one of the best Star Trek writers, like from the 60s. Her name was D.C. Fontana because she couldn't put her feminine name, or they wouldn't have taken the episode seriously, or they would have not maybe even brought the show to the network. But she had to put her name as D.C. Fontana. And she had great episodes, right? They were always some of my favorites.
I feel like Myrtle might be stepping in, Joe, with a message, so I'm going to check in with her quick. She says a lot of what's coming forward through the messages of these episodes and through the guests who are sharing time with you on this stage, she said, are connected to the idea of feminism or the role of women and the acceptance of women in an equalized way. She said, however, this is only the tip of the iceberg. This is only one example, a very dominant or prominent example, but it is only one. Acceptance is lacking in many facets, in almost all facets of the current human experience. And it is something that is needed in order to shift the energy of the world in a more positive direction. Unconditional acceptance, without rules, without restrictions, without being a qualifier or quantifier, but just as a means of being freely and joyfully. In love and light, my friend. Amen. And she too was very cheeky and gave me the wink and said that there's no coincidence that all three of the women or female energies that have come forward today have all signed off in the same way.
And it's funny because when we first started doing the show, and I think George Carlin came through first.
Yeah, of the sort of
celebrities, yeah. And then Robin Williams, right?
Yeah.
And then I said to you, I hope it's not just males that are coming through, because that in itself is strange. And then the third one, was it Audrey Hepburn? Is that next? I can't even keep track.
Patrick Swayze.
Oh, Patrick Swayze. That's when I said there's too many males, right? Like, why is it like that?
Yeah, so maybe that's why, because we sort of addressed that. They have helped to balance things out, because that seems to be what they're talking about is this lack of imbalance, or this imbalance or lack of balance, or equality. So maybe that's why the last few times we've filmed, we've had these wonderful female energies stepping forward.
Right. I think we're done.
I think so too.
Okay. You're watching and or listening to Talking to the Dead with Janet Kubik. Thanks for joining us, and don't forget to subscribe on whichever platform you're joining us on. Help spread the word by sharing, and be sure to visit janetkubik.com and sign up for her email list. Bye, Whitney and Myrtle and Sophia and Janet.
Bye. Thank you so much for checking in.